Hi guys, this is Christian from firstwebdesigner.com with a new video tutorial on basic coding. Today we are going to create together a CSS3 drop-down menu, which is extremely easy to code, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this tutorial. But first, let's take a very brief look at what we did last time, if you remember, where we created this theme. If you saw the tutorial, then you know that this is very easy to create, and you've been through the concepts that I discussed in that hour-long tutorial. And as you can see, or as you can remember, is a responsive HTML5 CSS3 tutorial or layout. And in case you haven't seen it, I think it's always it's a good idea to go back and look at it. So if you see this video on YouTube, the link is below in the description. If you see the video on First Web Designer's page, the link is below this video as well. It's written HTML5/CSS3 tutorial, and I think it will be a very good idea to go and look at it first and then come back to this one. So what we're gonna do today? Well, we're gonna create this navigation. It doesn't seem that special to me, although you can already see we use some CSS3 properties like gradient, opacity, and so on. However, this is a drop-down menu, and the good part about it is it's made with CSS3, which means that before you had to do it with JavaScript or jQuery, which is pretty much the same kind of coding language. So it's very heavy, and it took a lot of time for web pages to load that information. This is CSS3, is as simple as possible, is very fast to create, and it looks nice. So let's just start working on it. It shouldn't take too long, and we go to Coda. This is the code that we're gonna have to write. So we have around 50 lines of code here and around 130 here. Under 200 lines of code. That's gonna be very short. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna delete everything from here, as we did last time, and we're gonna delete everything from here. So we can actually start with 2 blank sheets. So we're gonna start with the index HTML, with the HTML page where we're gonna create the menu. What I promised you before in the previous tutorial was that I'm gonna implement this navigation in the theme that we created together. However, what I didn't think of is that that theme is responsive, and there is no drop-down menu on mobile or tablets. So making this navigation and putting it into the theme that we created last time wouldn't be so realistic. So I'm just gonna show you how to create it, and you're just gonna have to create it on your own or to put it in your own theme. So yeah, we just start with a doc type. Very easy, as you remember from last time. Sorry, I forgot about this exclamation mark. And then we close the HTML. Yes. Here we have, we give it a language, although in this case it's not very important, but it's always a good idea to build this header of the HTML page, so you can always, you're always gonna know what you're gonna write if you create a new project. So every time we're gonna make a tutorial, we're gonna create this. So we start with a header or with a head, and we want to give a title to this page, and we're gonna say CSS3 drop-down menu. Close the title tag. Then we want a meta char set, which is UTF-8 by default, or that's what we want to work with. Then we want to attach the style sheet. And again, this is something that you probably have done before. It's style.css, and then we have type equals text/CSS. Yes, and we can close the head now. Yes, should be a good idea to close this one too. Okay, now we can go and create the body of the page. Great. What we're not gonna create a whole page, so we're only gonna create this menu, and it is basically a menu. You learned to do this in the past, in the previous tutorial, or you already knew how to do this from before. So let's just create the classes in the unordered list, because it's gonna be an unordered list. You know, menus are usually ULs instead of OLs. So we have that one, and we close it. We want to give it a class, and we're gonna call it menu because it is a menu. And then we want to start with the list elements, and then a link. We don't give it a target yet. We're gonna want to give a class to each line or to each list, and we're gonna start with home. Close the link, close the list. Actually, we don't give classes here because, as you can see, home, it's a menu, a menu like about a company, cases, contact us, and so on. We're gonna give classes to these ones, to the submenu. So we're just gonna leave the class from here. Yeah, wanna, let's say one more, and we're gonna call it about. Let's say about the company. Great. Then we're gonna create one more, and we are going to here under this, which we're gonna call, let's say, cases. This is gonna have a submenu, and in order to have a submenu, you need a new UL, a new unordered list under this list, which means that you do not have to close the list here. We're gonna close it here. So we're gonna have it like that, and then, you know, in here you have another set of lists. So you have a new UL, which is pretty much the same as here, so you can just copy it. Only this time we want to give it a class. Let's say this one, history. We want to give it a class, and we're just gonna call it history. Let's make the rest too. Yeah, present, and then employees, you can say, and the classes, we call them like that. Yes, so now we have cases will have a submenu comprised of history, present, and employees. So let's copy 3 more. It should be fine. Yes, let's call them cases, or not. No, this was not cases. This was history. Cases, contact us, and let's say policy. And under cases, again, we copied this, and here, before you close the list, because you do not want to close the list before you come with this unordered list, which is going to be the submenu. And now we call it, let's say, iPhone app, website, and yeah, free theme. App, website, and theme to close the classes. And that's our HTML page. That's everything we need, pretty much. Let's see how it looks. You can see it's a normal list, unordered list, with sublists, or there are sublists now, but there will be submenus a bit later. Let's go and style them. Once we're done with the HTML, we will pretty much only go back to look at the classes and so on, because this CSS3 navigation is pretty much done with CSS. That's why it's not called HTML navigation. It's because what you can find here in HTML is basic things. That's everything is basic HTML. It's not even HTML5, it's HTML. So it's a CSS3 drop-down menu because absolutely everything you're gonna do it with CSS, including opacity changes and transitions and so on. So it's gonna be very, very, very light to load for a browser. And yeah, we start with a body. That's what we start to style in. Normally we shouldn't, but I do not like websites with white background. So I'm just gonna create, or gonna give this this a background. This page, I'm gonna give it a background. Yes, that should be it. Only, yeah, now it works perfect. It's much more comfortable for me anyway, to code and to preview all the time a page which doesn't have pure white on its background, because my eyes will hurt at some point in time. So it might be a good idea for you if you feel that sometimes your eyes hurt, might be because the web pages are always white, and when you start with coding a web page, it's always white. So maybe that's why I recommend you to use a background, a gray background, a very light gray. Yes, we want to reset different different classes and so on, just to make sure that later on we're not gonna have many classes which we're gonna add paddings to, and then they will not add up. So we want to reset pretty much all the classes that we have, and we have the class called menu. We call this UL class, we called it menu, and that's pretty much what we want to reset. Also, we want to reset all the lists behind it, menu UL, and then menu li, and then we also want to reset the links. Yes, and let's give it to everything a margin of 0, a padding of 0. Let's give it no borders, and yeah, outline none. So as you can see, everything is now in line. There's no margins, not even to the submenus. And we do that because later on, when we're gonna have the submenus dropping down on hover, you want them to have a margin 0, or to have the same margin as the list, the unordered list above them. So here it is, the reset. Now we don't necessarily need to do that, but we're gonna do it for the purpose of this tutorial. We're gonna position everything in the middle. So we take the same class UL menu, and we're gonna give it a margin of 150 pixels, and actually we can say 150 pixels, auto 0 auto, so it's censored. You can see it now, but it'll look better a bit later on. Yes, and now we just start working on the menu. And what we want to do, well, we want to give it a height, obviously, to the menu class. .40 pixels should be enough for navigation. That's okay. We're gonna give it a width, although we don't know what width we're gonna give it yet. So let's say width of 500 pixels, and then right here, come back to check. Although you don't necessarily need to write, because you'll see later on, if 500 pixels is not precise, and it most probably isn't, you're gonna be able to see it. So, but it's just a good idea to keep this thing here, to leave a comment, or to be able to find it a bit easier early on. Sure, it's very easy to find now when you have 34 lines of code, but it's more difficult to find when you have 500. So all these comments are always a good idea to have. Let's see how it looks. That's how it looks right now. We want to give it a bit later on some backgrounds and the border radius and so on. For now, we're gonna give it a background, and that's it. We're gonna come back later. That's how it looks. So that's a 40 pixel height by 500 pixel width, and probably, as I said before, 500 pixel might not be enough. Let's work with 550. You see it always stays censored regardless of its height or width. It's because of this. Yes, we're gonna come back later on anyway to give it the gradients. We would like it to have some gradients. So in order to know that, here we need to come back. So come back to add gradients, and actually border radius, you can add them now. And you did it last time. Border radius we did last time in the last tutorial, so I hope you remember how you do it. And then you copy this one twice and add in front of it WebKit and Moz from Mozilla. You can see it already has some borders, some radius at the corners of 5 pixels. And we're gonna remember to come back here and add some gradients a bit later on. But some other things are important right now. We want to go and style the li, the lists. We want to style these things. What we want to do is we want to get rid of the bullets first. Obviously, you don't want that. You want them to display as block because you want them on the whole width, not on a height. We want to give them a height to every list item, and the height has to be the same as the navigation. So we want, pretty much after we're gonna style the menu li class, we want them to look like to be already ordered and aligned in the way they should be in the end. So yeah, let's say list style none. We do not want the bullets. That's how you get rid of them. You want them to float to left, as I explained to you in the first tutorial why you always want to float things to left. You want them to be displayed as block, and you want to give them a height of 40 pixels. And now they look as they should. I mean, not exactly, but you can already see that 535 pixels is not enough, or 550, or how much we chose. But that's because these things, they will not appear here. They will be hidden unless you hover over them. So contact us and policy will have some place to come in here. We're not gonna work with the width right now. But you always have this comment, and you can always come back here. We always want them to have a position of relative, or a relative position, but that's not something you're gonna be able to see now. But the idea is that you want the list to be its position to be always relative to its parent. Yes. Now we can actually move on to links. Yes. So menu, li, and anchors. We want again to display them as block. We want to give you some padding a bit earlier and some margins. We want them to give in line height and so on. We want to make them look nice. But for now on, let's say text decoration none. We don't want text decoration. We want to give it a font family, and I usually give it Helvetica. But again, this can be taken from here and moved up in the body. It makes much more sense. That's where you usually name the font family. Let's say we're gonna make them bold, so font weight bold. We obviously want them to be white because the background is gonna be dark, so we want them to be white. Font size, let's say 15 pixels, and let's see how it looks. Looks a bit better. Now we want to style them, so we give them margins and paddings. And let's start with a padding, and we want to give it a padding of nothing on top and the bottom, and something left and right. So you see it already starts looking better. yeah, we also want to give it some margins, top bottom, so that the link is gonna be in the middle of the 40 pixels high navigation instead of on the top. And we're gonna have to calculate how much this means. And we're gonna give it a line height as well. So let's see, if we're gonna give it a margin of 5 pixels top bottom, so 5 pixels and then 0 left right, this means that out of the 40 pixels, 10 pixels are already filled up with the margins. So you want a line height of 30 pixels. You can see it aligns perfectly. It's exactly in the center of the navigation. I think that's it for now. We would like to add some borders as well. So it's a difference. You can see where each button stops. We're gonna make them look like buttons instead of only text. So we're gonna give it a border left, just the pixel solid, and then the color. And we want the same thing to happen on the right side, so border right. Yes, looks quite okay for now. After styling the list, you also want to keep working with some details about navigation, some small details, with some specific links. So we want to take the first child link, of the list, which is always the first link, and this is because you want to give it a border left of none, so you won't have any border here, because that doesn't make any sense. You don't need border here. And then you will probably also want to go to the last child and give a make the same thing, only say instead of first child, say last child, and it's the border to the right you want to erase. It's going to be this one, I think. Yes, one of them. Great. So we have that. What we want to do right now is whenever you hover on a link, you want to be able to see that you hover on a link. So let's say menu li on hover, and what do you want to have on hover is a different color, and let's say a color B94861, and now you hover and you can see it's already visible whenever you hover on a link. Yes. So what we need to do right now is start working on a submenu. The reason why this doesn't look very good yet is because you have those submenus, and they are not in place right now. So we want to go and work on the submenus as well. So we call it submenu. Yes, not submenu. That's better. And we want to go to the class, to the UL class, and we want to start with saying that you want a opacity of 0, because you don't want it to be visible. You can't see them anymore. They only need to be visible when you hover them, or when you hover on them. And you want to give it a background of that should be good. You can't see it yet because there's opacity 0 on them. You want them to have a position of absolute. Again, this is in order to help this fall into place. Position absolute, what it does is that it allows other elements to hover or to come over, to spring over these elements that have a position of absolute. Because normally, as you can see here, without position absolute, they look like that. But that's because you have history, then you have the other ones, which right now you can't see because they are opacity 0. So you have all of them here. But now you call the unordered list, you have the position absolute. So this means that this will just fall into place. You already can see that the width that we chose, it's too big. So we can actually right now go back here and say, I don't know, 620 pixels. See how it looks? It's too much still. 590. Yeah, I think that's equal left, right. Yeah, 595 maybe. No, so it was 590. So now we don't need to come back and check anymore. So we delete a comment, and it looks great. So we have the first part already. Go back here to the menu UL. We want to give it a top of 40 pixels. That's not something you can notice right now because you have the opacity 0. As you can see, you already have the two submenus here, so they are already there all the time. But when you make them opaque, when you give them opacity of 0, they are still here. As you can see, if I put my mouse here, this history menu gets red. It's the same like I do this. We're gonna fix that later on, but this is a clear sign of the fact that the two submenus still exist here, only you can't see them. We're gonna want to add the same border radius to this submenu as we did to the menu as well. Yes, again, you won't be able to see them now, but let's remove this so you can already see that they are here. Yes. Now what we want to do is, it's actually very simple. We want that whenever you hover on the list element, you want them to show you the UL, and you want them to make it with an opacity of 1. So you already see what happens here. Whenever you click on this one, you'll be able to whenever you hover over the list element, which the list element are these ones, those are list elements, all of them. Whenever you hover on them, they will show you the UL. They will transform the UL by using this, this small arrow, forward arrow, or whatever it's called. Yes, we want to move on now to the menu UL li, which is actually which are actually the lists elements. We want to give it a height of 0, overflow hidden, and 0 padding. What that makes, it makes it disappear. So whenever you come with the mouse here, it's not like you hover over them, because you have this position of overflow hidden, or this element overflow hidden. So if you remove it, and if you remove the padding and height as well, whenever you come with the mouse here, this appears. You don't want that to happen. You only want this to appear whenever you hover here. So you want to give it the list elements a height of 0 and a padding of 0. So this will actually make it in such a way that they actually are impossible for the mouse to see, or let's put it in this way. And then we want to work on the same thing when you hover on them. So whenever you hover on the list, right, on the list elements, which are those, again, come back, those are list elements. So whenever you hover on them, they will do in such a way that the ULLI is going to have an automatic height, which is exactly how much the text is, or the text is. You want it to be visible, so it's not overflow hidden anymore as it is here. It will become visible. And you want it to have a padding of 0, keep that. Actually, I don't think it's necessary. So what does this make? This actually means that this whole thing gets replaced when you hover on the list. It's very easy to understand this code. Let's see. See, it is there. Doesn't look too good yet, but it's still there. Now it works. Yeah, the padding doesn't do anything right now. Yes, great. And now another thing that we want to do is go to the to this sub menu and actually style the links. We want to give it a width, and let's say 150 pixels. You see, it's already it's a lot. It's a lot. You don't need 150 pixels. So let's say 100. Let's see what 100. Sure, that works just fine. We want to give it margin. We want to keep it all the margins is 0. We want to give no borders. Although you want to give the border bottom because you would want to see a difference between where the bottom stops. Here you actually can look at this navigation and think there are 6 buttons, because this looks like a button because of this border right and border left. So we want here the same, only here it should be on bottom. So let's say border bottom 1 pixel and the solid of 353539. So that's great. Also, we want to go to the same ULLI, and you want to work on actually on the last child here, and give it a border none, because I'm going to show you why. You don't want this to appear here, this border down. You can see it. If you refresh now, you can see it disappeared because you worked with the last child. Come back here and make it look even nicer by giving it some padding, top bottom. Let's say we give it top 5 pixels and on the left 10 pixels. Actually, this is top bottom and this is left right. So you see the buttons are bigger now. It's easier to click on them. I think it looks fine. Maybe let's say 15 pixels right left or left right. Yes. So we pretty much have it right now. That's how it looks. Although we still want to do something. We want to make. We're gonna come back here and add gradients to the background of the navigation, and we also want to make some transitions there. CSS new properties, CSS3 properties, and I'm gonna teach you how these things work. So we want to work with the background, and we're going to use something called linear gradient, which is, as I told you, a CSS3 property, and it works in such a way that you start from the top, so the gradient starts from the top, you give it a color, so this is the color that's going to be on top, and let's say 532. So you have this color, that's where it starts, and it starts at 0%. And then you give it the new color, which you want on the bottom. And this is obviously 100%. Another thing that you want to do is this might not be interpreted in the right way by the browser. So you want this linear gradient, you want some vendor prefixes in it, as we did many times before. And let's add. So before this, you want to add for Mozilla, and you want to add for WebKit browsers. I don't know if you can see it. Actually, those shouldn't be here. So now you can see it. It's clear. The reason why this didn't work first time is because Safari, which I'm using, it's built on WebKit. So you need to use those vendor prefixes. So that's how it looks without the gradient. That's how it looks with a gradient. Much better, I would say. There's no gradient yet here, but we're gonna add that later. There are some other vendor prefixes you might want to use. There's also one called for Opera, in case you want you want Opera to or you want this to work on Opera, and it's just O instead of everything else. Why it doesn't make sense to use it anymore is because Opera will soon be built on WebKit, so WebKit is gonna be fine. And then you have MS for what else than Microsoft browsers, which is Internet Explorer. So now we have the background. Another thing we want to do, we want to go here at the links and create a transition, and want to create a transition that every time it appears or every time you hover on a link, you want it to be you want a transition, you want an opacity, or you don't want to be so plain whenever you hover on them. So let's do it right now. And there are again some properties that are new, but there are properties that are very easy to learn because they're very easy to use. You only have to use something called transition. The transition starts always with a color if you want to modify the color, and you can say 0.3 seconds and then ease. And again, copy this several times and make it for Mozilla, make it for WebKit browsers, Chrome and Opera, Chrome and Safari and Opera a bit later on, and then you want to make it for Microsoft as well, for the Internet Explorer. So as you can see, it's not so plain anymore. It changes the color. It's very easy to notice. It changes the color gradually. That's a very nice thing to do. It gives a special thing, and it's CSS. It works. It's very easy to load. It's not heavy at all for the page. That's what's most impressive about it, I think. Another thing we want to do is add transition for the submenu, and I'm gonna first do it, then I'm gonna show what I do. And again, we work with the same transition, only this time we don't work with the color as we do here. We work with opacity, and then we say 0.25s is 2.1s. Let's see how it looks. This is what it actually makes it even nicer. But again, you have to add those vendor prefixes for Mozilla, for WebKit browsers, and for Microsoft browsers. So what you can see right now, we styled the unordered list, which actually we styled the submenus in such a way that it works. It doesn't appear automatically anymore. It doesn't appear right. It's gradually. It appears gradually. It doesn't just pop out whenever you hover on them. If we delete this, you can actually see the right moment you pop over them, they appear. If we add the transition, it appears a bit smooth, and that's very nice. We would like to add some gradients. Maybe it's not necessary, but you might want to add some gradients to the submenu, or keep it like that. And we can do it by coming or by copying. We can copy the same gradients as up here pretty much. Let's see, and then put them here. So you see this has a gradient too, but doesn't look too good because it looks like, from a hierarchy point of view, it looks like this is less important than this one because this is darker. So it doesn't look too good here because the navigation is horizontal. Here the navigation is, or the navigation is vertical, sorry, and here the navigation is horizontal. It looks better, but it is a possibility, so you can do that if you want to, just so you know. It's always my duty to teach you new things. So that's it. We are done. In such a short time, you build a CSS3 drop-down menu. Very, very easy to build or to code. These are all basic, extremely basic CSS3 things. So I didn't actually teach you much. I just taught you how to put these things together and so on. But it's very easy to create this yourself. That was it for today. Next time, we are going to create together an HTML5 contact form. And we're going to try to make it responsive, see if it works. Cut it from here, cut it to here and start again. That was it for me. Next time, we are going to create an HTML5 contact form. So this time it was a CSS3 tutorial, next time it's going to be HTML5, and we're going to implement it. We're going to try to use the theme that we created last time to put this HTML form inside of it. That was it from me. Again, this is Christian from First Web Designer. If we have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me either here on firstwebdesigner.com, or if you watch this video on YouTube, in the comment section below. I'm going to be around and I'm going to answer all your questions. And again, if you haven't seen the HTML5 CSS3 tutorial that I created last time, please go back to see it, because I got such a good feedback on it, and I really look forward to get your feedback too. So again, my name is Christian Vasile. I work at First Web Designer as an editor, and I've been very happy to present this tutorial for you.